Hey, welcome into the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. It's a beautiful Friday morning in the Middle Tennessee area. Joe Rexrode, good morning. Salutations. How we doing? What's going on? One mute immediately from Rexrode to start the Friday morning. It's a beautiful way to start. I still can't hear Rexrode.
You hear me?
Now we can. Now I can hear. You're good.
Okay. I think the second one was not on me, but
We're gonna blame you anyway.
We missed them. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm still stunned at what we saw last night. I cannot believe Indiana won that game.
Yeah, pretty crazy. We're gonna get to that here in just a second. Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Mo, doing great. Thanks. Yeah, I was checking the game, saw the score. 10 points in the first quarter. Okay. I watched a little bit in the second quarter. Checked the score again. Saw it was like double figures in the fourth quarter, and I went to sleep.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It was 15. It was over.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be exactly what we all thought it was going to be, which is, well, this is all fun and great, but Oklahoma City is going to kill them. And then I guess that's on me, Joe, because how many times does Hallebertton have to do this in one postseason before you just watch the thing till the end and get done and say, all right, this is it? But I mean, the other part of this that's crazy, if you would have told me, Joe, heading into game one, that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was going to have 38 and Hallebertton would have 14 points, I was like, okay, well, Oklahoma City is going to win by 30 points in this game. And that is not what happened. He does it again. Look, I don't know if Indiana is going to end up winning this thing here or not, but think about the postseason and just the amount of clutch shots for Tyrese Hallebertton. It's unbelievable at this point.
No, it really is. It's an incredible collection. I mean, all the great ones, you can find a montage of Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas. It was insane with these late, buzzer beater, that stuff. Now, all the greats, but in one postseason, I seriously, I struggle. I don't know that there's someone who in one postseason has this many. I could be wrong, but I don't think so, man. I really
don't remember one quite like it.
It's crazy. And, another thing about it is he hit the shot, and it's like as soon as he pulled up, I'm like, that's going to go in because it always does. But, most of the fourth quarter comeback, it was Andrew Nembhard who really took over the game.
Yep.
Of course, he and SGA are really good friends. They're both on Team Canada. They were shoving each other and, getting into – but he just started just going nuts, crossing people over, hitting threes. And a lot of different people hit big shots there, and then Hallebertton finishes. So, but no, it's remarkable. Him hitting those shots, and then also the team of destiny thing they have with just constantly falling way behind, looking inferior, and then in the same night somehow pulling out a win.
Yeah, it's wild to me. I don't understand how they keep doing it. I really don't. And like you said, I mean, when Hallebertton pulls up there, you just know that it's going in based on the way that he's played throughout the playoffs here. And again, like Oklahoma City, I still think, Joe, that they're probably going to end up winning the series when it's all said and done. But I got to say, I'm kind of happy Indiana won game one because I think that gives me hope that we're going to get a pretty good series here. And look, maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm just doubting the Indiana Pacers at this point at my own peril based on the postseason that they've had. But I was glad to see them get game one because I think now we could get a pretty darn good series out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I do think of the series a little differently beyond just another insane Indiana comeback. I mean, they can defend them. They can defend Oklahoma City pretty well in the half court. But again, that's what's crazy is like they had 1 million turnovers last night. That was a big stat they were talking about after the game. Is I think it was 25 turnovers, but they only got like 11 points off that or something like that. It was a low number of points off the turnover. So they didn't let them get runouts. So when they're in the half court, they can defend. Because SGA had to have a lot of shots to get those points, and certainly, he did what he does. He had some incredible drives, body control, but it wasn't like it was easy for him. Then he's hitting the mid range, So I do think they can defend him if they can clean it up and figure out that pressure defense that Vinny Goodwill was telling us about yesterday. I love the 40 minutes of hell comparison. They just at times are just so you cannot turn your back and dribble against them. Obi Toppin just keeps doing it. And it's like, dude, they're just going to come from behind and rip you. If they can figure that out, I mean, I think they can be in this thing. I think we can have better games that are close, like throughout the game, possibly.
Well, and you mentioned the turnovers, 25 for Indiana, only 7 for Oklahoma City. I mean, the thing that would probably scare me a little bit if I'm Indiana is Oklahoma City shot 39.8% from the field, which they just don't do very often. So,
yeah,
of course, I mean, that's some of Indiana gets credit for that, right, with their defense. Now, that's also a team that in Oklahoma City can heat up pretty dramatically. So we'll see what that looks like in game 2 there. But again, like it just another comeback where it looked like Indiana at one point was dead in the water, and they're able to go on the road and steal a game. Like, I mean, I don't know that it's exactly the same as, kind of the Knicks game 1, but it's pretty similar, right? Where they're down and then Hallebertton makes a play at the end. And how much did that change the tone and the feel of that series, right? And now they've done it again here in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Turner last night was kind of a disaster, really for Indiana. And I mean, he did make some big plays down the stretch, but there's a lot of things they can do better. Like you said, Oklahoma City also, they definitely missed some shots, some good shots. That was part of the comeback. It's funny because Doris Burke, by the way, that's something worth talking about at some point. Rick Carlisle sort of went off on like how people are talking about like Doris Burke might be off the broadcast, but I think she's really good. I don't think Richard Jefferson's that good. That's my opinion on that. I've liked Doris. I've liked Doris Burke for many years. I think she should be part of the team, and Breen, and I think they could probably do better than Jefferson. But now I've lost the point I was going to make. What the heck was I talking about?
I don't know. You were getting somewhere though.
I had a great point to make. She was talking about something, and then it played out that way. Well, anyway, great points by me. But no, I mean, look, they can match up pretty well. Caruso gave them trouble too. They got caught in some switches and things like that. But I like how their defense can. Oh, that's the point she made. She's like, it's like, Indiana is one of the most spurtable teams in the league. They're averaging 117 points a game in the playoffs, all this stuff. The best run they have this whole night is 6-0. She made this point, is they're hanging there about that, and then boom, like that immediately they go on like a 12-2 run, until they flip the game. Yeah. So it's like at some point they're going to do that. It's also like rooting interest here. I mean, I think it's cool if either of these teams wins it, like the Pacers, as much as I used to kind of hate them, back in the day when they had Ron Artest and all those guys. It'd be cool for their fans, and obviously Oklahoma City. I mean, the Oklahoma City fans don't like care that like the Sonics have won it before,
They do not.
Yeah. I mean, either way, it'll be a first. I just feel like, Oklahoma City is set up to be a great team for years to come. People are using the D word. I mean, what is Indiana?
Yeah.
You got to take them seriously. At this point, I don't think we can call them a fluky smoke and mirrors team.
How about Aaron Nesmith, as you've mentioned, and what he's done in the postseason? How about former Belmont Bruin Ben Shepherd getting on the board in the NBA Finals with 3 points last night in the NBA Finals?
Yeah, and he's a rotational guy who, certainly a big time defense player and hit some shots for them. And Nesmith didn't have a very good game. He did hit a couple big threes in the fourth, but he did not have the type of game he's been having. He's a key guy.
3 of 9 from the field.
Yeah, but still, a couple of those. I believe 2 of those 3 were in the fourth. I know one definitely late that he rattled in. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I guess that is for people around here, that would be a reason to, I guess, root for the Pacers, right?
You would think so. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We're off and running on the program here today. Jared Stillman will be with us at 7 o'clock. TD at 8. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. We got weekend winners coming up later in the show. And let me just tell you, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar, Robby Stanley, all tied in the competition in weekend winners.
Ooh.
We got some things to get after a little bit later in the program. We'll take your thoughts all program long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Joe Rexrode is mad, and he's got some things to say about it coming up next. We'll do that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
They're not going to call a timeout. Hallebertton has it with 3, driving with 2, pulling up, and hitting with 3/10 of a second to go. How many more times can this team do that?
we just all got each other's back at every point. Any negative thing that's said about anybody, we got full belief in each other. And so the more that's talked about, like right now, we're whatever underdog that gives us more confidence as a group. We enjoy that, but there's still a lot of work to be done. This is an exciting time. Again, another big comeback, but there's a lot more work to do. That's just one game, and this is the best team in the NBA. And like you said, they don't lose often, so we expect them to respond, and we got to be prepared for that.
The Indiana Pacers get it done last night in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. They win 111-110 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Joe Rexrode, as we know, a passionate fan of the NBA. Passionate is what he brings to the table. And Joseph, people have made you mad throughout this entire NBA playoffs process, and certainly as we've gotten here to the NBA Finals. What has upset you, and what would you like to discuss on the program today?
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yes. I can't believe you didn't call me sir. I gotta. This goes back to beef yesterday. I was going back and forth on the text, and I was like, I think this is worth bringing to a segment. So here's the thing: if you don't like the NBA, it's fine. Don't like the NBA. To me, if you don't like the NBA, I question whether you really like basketball. I understand, like, Kahar said, they shoot too many 3-pointers. I want more mid-range shots. Fine. I mean, he doesn't like basketball that much. Fine. If you don't like basketball, it's fine. But if you do love basketball, which I do, I don't. It doesn't really compute for me that you don't like the NBA today. I hear they don't play defense. That's brilliant. Watch a game. Watch one game in your life. Watch one quarter of one game in your life. And I'm talking regular season too, but obviously the postseason is different. I mean, if anything, I would say this postseason, we're drifting a little bit back towards some of those physical times of, a lot of stuff being allowed on the defensive end. I mean, you look at Oklahoma City play defense; it's incredible. The different things they do. I think the game is great right now because we do have these mixing of zone defenses in. I think there's more strategy that way. And there's teams that play a lot of different ways. They don't, yes, the Celtics definitely are an example of a team that at times can get very 3-point happy, but not every team's like that at all. And so, look, I love the game. I love the NBA right now. If you don't like it, that's fine. The argument I got in yesterday is, the ratings thing. And then to paraphrase, look at the ratings. Now, hockey, that's amazing. I love that. You know what? I love the Stanley Cup playoffs too. I love them both. But if we're going to have a ratings argument, like, what are you talking about? I mean, the NBA has 5 times the ratings of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, I'm sorry. I wish it wasn't. I wish they both had much higher ratings. I do. And, I think actually at this point now, we may have 2 great final series. I did not think so. But I mean, after last night, I have to rethink that. I'm very excited about the Stanley Cup final. But again, like, how could you use ratings as your argument, but then you're trying to say, see, the NHL's awesome and their playoff is great, but the NBA sucks. Look at the ratings. What? It doesn't make any sense. So that's basically what I want to say. Another thing, though, I did want to bring Robby to ask you, because I thought, and we're going to have Jared on, but I thought he had an interesting segment, is the lack of, one of his big gripes, and Jared complains about everything. He complains about the NBA every chance he gets. But, his thing is like, the lack of stars. And certainly he's not the only one saying this. So I was listening yesterday and he was saying, like, who are the stars? Who are the stars in this league? And again, if he's saying, like, who's the Michael, who's the Magic? Well, it's hard to get there, right? Like, I mean, LeBron is older now, so who's taking the baton? I think that's a fair question. But I did throw to him, like, what about Luka? How about the Joker? How about Anthony Edwards? How about Giannis? How about Donovan Mitchell? These are all guys he didn't mention as he was talking through, star power. But, what do you think about that in terms of people who don't like the NBA or something that could hurt the NBA, just the lack of star power?
Well, I think a couple things. Number one, my answer to that would probably be Jokic. I mean, look at what he's done over the last 5 years. Now, he's also incredibly boring in terms of his personality, right? Like he
Yeah.
absolutely hates doing the media. Go back and watch when the Nuggets won the championship. He was like just beside himself that the championship parade was like 4 days later and he couldn't get back to Europe and just hang out. Like he's just a different type of guy, right? So
Yeah.
like Giannis is kind of the same way. Like he's kind of boring. So like I think some of the, and I'm not talking about the way they play, because the way they play is really exciting, and that's ultimately the most important part. But I don't think that, LeBron kind of puts himself out there. Giannis doesn't really do that. Jokic certainly doesn't do that. And I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just won the league MVP, but he does play in Oklahoma City, and he just doesn't say a whole lot either. I mean, the main thing that people see him in are all these like AT&T commercials that he's walking around in out there. So it's I don't think there's been that next NBA star yet that just like connects on like maybe a pop culture level. Like LeBron was everywhere, right? And part of LeBron being everywhere was like when he made the decision to leave Cleveland and go to Miami, there were a lot of people that really hated that. And you had strong opinions on LeBron James either way. Either you loved him or you hated him. And I do think we're probably missing some of that in the NBA right now with their young stars. Like nobody really hates Nikola Jokic, but unless you're a Nuggets fan, like, do you really love Nikola Jokic? I would ask that question. I mean, Luka's probably the closest one, would be my guess.
Yes. I mean, I agree. I mean, he talks some mad trash, and I think he's hilarious.
Yeah, like Luka would probably be the one that I would point to. And look, maybe now that he's out of Dallas and he's with the Lakers, I mean, if you're a Dallas fan, you're still like ready to light your city on fire based on what happened earlier this year. But maybe him as he starts to be, become a quote unquote a Laker moving forward, maybe that helps.
Yeah, I think he has all the elements for sure. Now, I think Giannis also is, as far as like a face of the league, and like a credible guy who's also, I think, a fascinating player to watch. I mean, obviously, we forget about because they got bounced so early by Indiana this year, but I think he's on that list of people. Anthony Edwards is, I still think, has the game to potentially, be one of those guys. John Morant a couple of years ago, it looked very different. I think John Morant was one of those guys we looked at and said, okay, this is a guy who's going to be one of those torch carriers for the future generation, and obviously things have kind of gotten derailed for him. But Hallebertton is a guy who, and Vinny, mentioned it yesterday, and I agree. I mean, Hallebertton, personality wise, saying interesting things, he's never gonna, I guess the problem is, again, he's just never going to blow you away with his game, right? Like he's just not a especially explosive guy. He has a weird looking shot. I mean, he keeps hitting these freaking shots at the end of games. I mean, that's pretty good. But I do think he's at least elevated to someone who's like one of the personalities of the league, which I think is great. And the whole overrated thing is amazing. By the way, Vinny, I think Vinny said, did he say 13 people yesterday?
Yeah. I think he's talking about like the 13 people that voted for Hallebertton, not the actual poll.
Okay. I was gonna say, because it was about 90. It was about 90 guys that they polled, which is a pretty good sample size. I mean, that's like 3 per 10. That's pretty good sample size. So 13 voted for him. Yeah. So it's not like it's a ton of people. Still, it's amazing that he might end up taking this all the way after that publishes. So here's Chip from Mount Jew. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you brought up the point about the NHL earlier. Like, I think in terms of the game itself, it's probably in the best spot it's ever been, just in terms of, like, the star power, the way the game's played, all those things. Joe, if you look at the playoffs this year, like, the ratings are down from last year. Now, some of that is the NHL is still a league, to me anyway, that relies heavily on some of their big markets to generate TV ratings. Like, and you look in the playoffs, who's not in there this year? Well, the Rangers are not in there this year, and the Boston Bruins are not in there this year. So some of it's as simple as that, as you have two of your massive draws around the league that did not make the playoffs this year when they've been in the playoffs a lot recently, particularly in the case of the Bruins. But like, the NHL, I can tell you, like behind the scenes there's some concern of like, why are the ratings down this year when the product is as good as it's ever been?
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it shouldn't be the case. And we've talked about the transition and stuff broadcast wise, but I don't know. That shouldn't be the case. I think the game's in a great place, but I also think the NBA is. I mean, again, I understand some of the complaints, but I love the NBA right now. I think it's a great era. Chip from Mount Juliet says the NBA is and has been 5 individuals playing, not a team sport, for many years. It's not as popular as the 70s and 80s, plain and simple. I mean, just tell me you hate basketball without telling me you hate basketball. First of all, that's not true at all. I mean, if you watch last night, the extent to which Indiana had to go to get shots absolutely required 5 people. There was a couple of plays where Nemhard just took his guy and hit step backs, which were huge. But other than that, look what they had to do to create shots.
Yeah.
It's talk about team sport on the defensive end. Amazing team defense on both sides. Also, the 70s was actually when the NBA almost freaking died. So, the 80s definitely, revived it. Magic, Bird, David Stern, et cetera, into Jordan with, Isaiah Thomas is the guy that people don't talk about enough. But yes, it's just a total. I mean, look, if you hate it, you hate it. But like, I'd say, like, if you hate something, that's fine. But like, do you have to say ignorant things about it?
Well, I would argue that the Golden State dynasty, particularly when they had Durant, ended up being some of the best team basketball that we've ever seen played. I mean, there's that. Like, people yell about LeBron and the Heat and all the time. I would probably agree that they were close to 5 individuals playing their first year. And you know why they won the next 2? Is because they turned into a pretty darn good team, right? Like, they came together and gelled. So, like, you're not winning in the NBA if you can't gel and become a really good team and play as one.
No question. And yes, Golden State. I mean, look, Steph Curry, we think of him as the best shooter. I think he's the best off-ball, running off screens guy I've ever seen. So look at the sets they run, the staggered screens, the different things they do to pop him open, while there's basically their center now. Draymond Green acts as point guard in the half court and gets in the ball. Their definition of team basketball. I don't know what to do for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love, like, I'm kind of like those people who grew up watching the NBA in the 90s who think that it's just the greatest thing ever. Like, my era of the NBA was basically mid 2000s all the way up to kind of the beginning of the Golden State stuff was when I was like really locked in. And I'm talking locked in like every night, whether it's December in the regular season or playoffs or whatever. And I'm not that way anymore, frankly, because I just don't have a whole lot of time to be that way. Like, I'm covering the NHL and doing all this other stuff. So I'm not that way with the NBA anymore. But I don't think the game is bad. Like, if you watch the game itself, it's still a pretty darn good product out there. And again, we come back to this conversation all the time, and we don't have to get into this now because we've gotten into it a lot. But for some reason, like, we all agree that, NFL football is way better. The players are all way better. NHL hockey's way better. The players have all gotten way better. But like, basketball is the one sport, I guess, that there's this thought out there. It's like, wow, it was a whole lot better 40 years ago than it was now. And it's like, yeah, I don't think so, man.
Bob Cousy would put 50 on Hallebertton any day. Yeah, no, don't get me started. You want to talk about triggering me.
I know. I know. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on Rexrode's NBA take, plus a commitment in the NFL finally made yesterday, we think. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Nashville Sounds take on Gwinnett at First Horizon Park. Pregame begins at 6:20. First pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Robby and Rexrode here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Joe, I will have to say there is one thing about the NBA right now that is irritating the crap out of me. It is simply this. They were just off for a week. Why are they not playing Saturday? Like it's you've been off for a week. There's no travel from game 1 to game 2 out of Oklahoma City. Why, you can't play Saturday? We got to wait all the way till Sunday for game 2? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously it's a TV dictated thing, which they think Sunday is better. People go outside. I know that the NBA finals have in the past been a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday thing. They've also been a Friday, Wednesday, Sunday thing. It used to be one or the other, I swear. And maybe someone can verify for me, but now we're looking at what, Thursday, Sunday, then
Wednesday.
Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday. So
Yeah.
see, it's all over the place. I don't know. I mean, again, I think it's TV stuff. I mean, at least I think we there is some coordination, right, with the NHL and NBA
There
here,
is.
right? Yeah.
There's not an overlap, which I'm thankful for that.
Yes,
But
but I
like-
agree. Saturday night, yeah. Well, I'd love to have a freaking game to watch.
Yeah,
Yes,
like-
absolutely.
Like, the NHL, they're going, so game 2 will be tonight, and then they don't play again until Monday. Now, they're also traveling, 2,500 miles going from Edmonton to Florida. So, like,
Right.
I don't mind the extra day, like, when you're traveling. Actually, I kind of prefer the extra day when you're traveling to get teams a chance to get settled in and get recovered and all
Yep.
that. But
Yep.
I saw that last night, and I was like, wait a minute, they're not playing game 2 till Sunday? What are we doing? They're all
Yeah.
hanging out at like the downtown Oklahoma City steak bar or steak restaurant down. Like, what's going on?
I would think some pretty good sides of beef there in that town.
You would
Yeah.
think.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong. I looked at the Stanley Cup final schedule, and I think like there's a big gap. Isn't there like a gap between 3 and 4? But then it's like there is a 1-day turnaround on one of the travels, I believe.
Yes, there is.
Which is like, good Lord, that's going to be brutal. I mean, yeah, is that like between 4 and 5?
Yeah.
It is between 4 and 5. Yeah. So
Yeah, good luck.
they play game 4 in Florida on next Thursday, and then Saturday back in Edmonton. All right. Have fun.
It's going to be a fun Friday for everybody.
Everybody hop on the plane very quickly. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see the way that part of it plays out there. But I couldn't believe that. I was like, okay, cool. We're just everybody sitting around Oklahoma City for all weekend long before we get to game 2 coming up on Sunday. So that'll be fun. But that's a minor grievance that I have looking at this. I got one text that says, I'm 36, grew up in Chicago in the 90s, watching the Bulls win 6 championships ruined the NBA for me, I think. I can understand if you're in Chicago and you grew up in the 90s, probably not going to ever overtake that as your best sports memory.
Yeah. And, congratulations on all those titles when the NBA was kind of weak.
Wow.
And it's kind of great to see the Bulls continue to suck.
Joe, we got some news yesterday that I was beginning to wonder if we were ever going to get. And it looks like Aaron Rodgers has finally made his decision. It's June the 5th as of yesterday. And it looks like Aaron Rodgers has decided that he is going to sign a contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers and that he will be at minicamp next week. So this saga that began in March, Joe, where I remember Mike Florio had the report on the second day of free agency that it could be done as soon as today. Well, it was not done on March the 16th. It is apparently done now, and he is going to be signing a contract with Pittsburgh. He will be in the building for minicamp next week. So Aaron Rodgers appearing for his third team, Joe, and he will be the next quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm glad it's over because I'm sick of talking about it. And I think it's pretty clear. And I saw a lot of reaction to this, some angry reaction. I saw some people bring back some Colin Cowherd, freezing cold takes and stuff like that. I think it seems to me pretty clear that Tomlin and Rodgers were on the same page, right? I mean, I have to believe that. like publicly everybody's like, what's going to happen? Oh my goodness, what are the, and then I just feel like this was one of those things where it's like, okay, come to the mandatory stuff. That'll be enough. The outside world will freak out about it. And I don't know if it'll work at all. I don't know if it's a good move at all. But I saw someone make an interesting point, and I hadn't thought about it this way, Robbie, and I also feel bad that I forget who it was, but it was someone. It was a person, a human who made this point. Good job, person. That this is maybe the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career that he won't be asked to be the culture setter, be, this is the guy we almost fell. He's basically brought in to be a hired gun. Can that work at quarterback? Really talented guy. We have a great culture here. We have a foundation. We're a stable organization. We want you for your talent. Get in there, be good, be a good teammate. You can bark. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to bark at people if they don't know all those little goofy hand signals immediately, right? But it's not like this is Aaron's team. It's an interesting thought, I mean, in other sports, you can bring in like an aging great player, and there may be other leaders or whatever, and it's like, yeah, it's basically just you're bringing in the ringer, to try to be better at the sport. It's just we don't think of things like that with a quarterback.
No,
but I haven't thought about that. I mean, to me, that's the only way it works, is that he kind of folds himself into. He's not in the dysfunctional organization. He's no longer with the original organization that he helped bring to great heights. Can he just go out there and ball out?
It's a great question. And then, like, probably the better question is, can he be the hired gun at age 41? Like, does he still have enough game left to him to be the hired gun at age 41? Now, we've gone through some of his numbers last year. They weren't as bad as people thought they were. Like, they ended up being pretty decent. So we'll see what that looks like in Pittsburgh. I guess my question is, like, I'm looking at this, Joe, and we've just assumed that he's going to be the quarterback here for a while in Pittsburgh. So it's not much of a surprise. I mean, I still think I've got them third in their division. Like, again, Cincinnati, I guess at this point, you can't just automatically include. Everybody, I still keep hearing conversations, and I think the Super Bowl odds reflect it. I'll go double check. But I still keep hearing conversations of everybody putting Cincinnati with Buffalo and Baltimore and all those teams. And I get it. It's because of the quarterback. But they have missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. So I don't know if they deserve that benefit of the doubt. But, Joe, I think if I was sitting here today and you were asking me to pick the AFC North, I'd go Baltimore 1, Cincinnati 2, Pittsburgh 3. Like, I think that's how I would order it.
Yeah. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. I mean, I feel like success at this point is, can you win a freaking playoff game?
Yeah.
Because it's been 8 years. And look, they could be third, and they could still be potentially, if everything were to break well, they could be potentially a dangerous team still in the playoffs, and look, I'm excited to see Aaron Rodgers throwing to DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
That's an interesting pairing of skill sets. What if that is just, lightning and thunder right away? I mean, if you're a Steelers fan, I'd love to know that if we have Steelers fans listening. Like, first of all, it's not like this is out of nowhere, so I'm sure there's not a lot of like excitement, and there's probably a lot of people who are like, yeah, it's gonna happen. He's just not gonna, he's gonna take his time and all that stuff. But like, if you're a Steelers fan, this is obviously a short-term Band-Aid. The Colts went through a long period of trying to do this with different, quarterbacks who were not past their prime, but still had something to offer. Does this excite you? I mean, does anybody really think that like this can be like, because 2 years ago we were talking about, man, are the Jets like a contender now that they have him? And of course he tears his Achilles, but they wouldn't have been. He didn't tear his Achilles. They were not going to be, but we overestimated, because look, they did have a heck of a defense and things like that. I don't know. I can't look at the Steelers and think of them as a contender, but if not, and it's just like, yeah, we'll be a little bit better, maybe win a playoff game. How do you feel as a Steelers fan?
Well, then I mean, the question's still going to be like, what's your long-term answer at quarterback, right? Like,
exactly.
Like Rodgers has got, let's say he's on the high end, he's got like 2 years left. I mean, what's he going to get? Are you going to be able to win a championship during that time? So to me, it still comes back to you're eventually here throughout this process going to have to find your next answer long term at quarterback if you're going to take that next step as an organization. Like, yeah, winning a playoff game would be great. And if you're a Steelers fan, you haven't done it in a while, so you'd feel awesome about it. But I still, it's hard for me to believe that Rodgers at 41 and the rest of that roster, by the way, which really, if you look at it, Joe, is fine, but it's not great. The rest of that roster, like, I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders.
I agree. I guess it's the highest paid defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
But that sometimes when you're that kind of speaks to some some guys who have been paid and have seen their best days already. I mean, that's so. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm reading this piece by Mike DeFabo about this, and going back through the whole quarterback thing, they've just had obviously they had old Roethlisberger, and they've just been old at the position. They had a chance in 2020, that draft class. They could have, like Jordan Love, for example, goes 26 and Jalen Hurts goes 53rd, and they drafted Minka Fitzpatrick, who's a heck of a player, by the way.
Yeah.
Great player. But at some point, they're going to have to figure out, and don't forget, they did draft Kenny Pickett. It just didn't work out. So they have tried. But then you go Russell Wilson, and now you're going Aaron Rodgers. And meanwhile, everything else is getting older. And yeah, it's just like I think we're looking at like a 9-10 win team.
Yeah. Got another NFL thought to get into coming up next, plus something that I think could totally rock Rexrode's world if it ends up happening. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll be joined by Jarrett Stillman coming up at 7 o'clock. Joe, real quickly, we did get asked by Mo on the text line our thoughts on Anthony Richardson, who, as we know, is in a quarterback competition with Daniel Jones and now has aggravated his right shoulder joint, the AC joint that I think you heard a couple years ago. And he has now aggravated that again. He's going to be out for an undetermined length of time. And that probably means that he's not going to play in next week's mandatory minicamp. So, at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal to miss mandatory minicamp in June via injury. Like if he's back out there at training camp, then it just kind of is what it is at that point. But for a guy who we already think's in some deep trouble, Joe, and a guy that despite his incredibly well-built frame at the quarterback position, has not been able to stay healthy to this point for the most part in his career. Not a good start to his third year for Anthony Richardson.
No, I'm starting to drift toward what somebody told us. I forget who. It was a human. It was some person that
a sir or a ma'am.
That's right. That this is just trending toward, maybe it was Charles actually, trending toward Daniel Jones having that job. Which again, like we just asked about Steelers fans and how you feel. Boy, how you feeling, Colts fans? Indy Ben, are you going to make up? Are you going to try to tell us that you're excited about that? Let me know. Text line's open for you, buddy.
We'll see what happens. So, Joe, as we know on this program, you hate the Chicago White Sox. It has been just a long-standing hatred of the Chicago White Sox. Well, the White Sox are potentially selling their team, right? Jerry Reinsdorf has been there for a long time. Most people around here are probably familiar with Jerry Reinsdorf from the Michael Jordan documentary that Joe Rexrode hates so much, The Last Dance, which he was incredibly featured in that. But a potential sale that has been reached with Justin Ishbia, who, by the way, is an investor in Nashville SC here locally, Joe. So as we know, we're always thinking about, baseball here in Nashville and when could it be coming, and could it be an expansion team? Could it be an existing team that moves? What's that going to look like? Where they're going to play? All those things. But what do you make of what the Chicago White Sox are doing? And do you think Nashville could ever be a factor with the White Sox? And would that change your allegiance?
That's an interesting question. First of all, let me get to some name dropping. All right, so here on my shirt here. See this? That's the peanut barrel. This is my favorite East Lansing bar. This is the dive bar with the Yalla burger. That's like, that's my number one in East Lansing. I had the rib on yesterday. So Justin Ishbia, his brother, I covered him in college, and now I knew Justin. Justin's kind of friends of friends. Now you'd find Justin at the Land Shark often, but it's amazing to me to sit here 25 years later, and these dudes are both billionaires buying all the teams, Yeah. But the thing about Justin is Justin went to Vanderbilt, got his law degree. Like you said, he's an investor in Nashville SC. Now, few things on this. He will not have a controlling interest, I don't believe, until the mid 2030s. That's the way it's structured. Also, in the statement, he made the point, I love Chicago, I love the White Sox, blah, blah, all this stuff. So, no one's talking about this now, but Jerry Reinsdorf has been pushing for, a new stadium in Chicago, publicly funded. We know the story. And meanwhile, Rate Field, which sucks, which is state funded, which is a pile of trash for its pile of trash team, has not been paid off yet. I'm just, connecting some dots here. We've always talked about where's the billionaire, and we've also talked about the more likely scenario for Nashville to get baseball is probably a team moving. There was some talk recently, right, about Tampa Bay and all that stuff. The Rays. I'm just looking at this, and there's a lot of factors, including, Nashville itself over the next 10 years, and Chicago. There's a lot of things that are variables. I have no idea how they're going to turn out. But I'm just saying, man, could the White Sox potentially down the road, could there at least be a threat of moving them here to try to get that stadium, if not an actual move?
The Nashville White Sox. What would you do?
No,
I'd totally shun
support
them?
No, I'd support them. Yeah.
Would you really?
Yeah, mostly, my biggest thing is I just hate Chicago sports teams other than the Cubs,
Okay.
So,
Makes sense.
Yeah, the people that I really hate, freaking AJ Przinsky and all these clowns. They're all long gone anyway. So
Ozzie Guillen.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
oh, the Hawk, my God, the worst announcer in the history of sports. Yeah, the funny thing is, it's hard to hate Ozzie Guillen for me.
He's pretty
just
hilarious.
He's so funny. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like in the moment when he was managing them, absolutely. So now, if they become the Nashville White Sox, it's a totally new relationship.
Wow. I'm pulling for it now. I need to be here to see that. The transition of Joe's total hatred of the White Sox to him wearing a White Sox hat somewhere in downtown Nashville.
But this is the kind of thing,
Yeah, for sure.
that you need, right? Is especially with and I have no idea. Like, does Justin Ishbia, does he have a house? Does he have like a house here in Aaron Rodgers' neighborhood? Like, I don't know. I don't know how tied to Nashville is, but the fact that he's a Nashville SC investor, kind of interesting.
It is interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that as the White Sox continue to battle through number one, being a horrible baseball team, and number two, what the future of their franchise could look like. Jared Stillman will be with us coming up next. We got a whole smorgasbord of topics to get into with Jared. We will do that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Friday morning. And we welcome in our good friend Jared Stillman to the program, who joins us every Friday morning at 7 o'clock. Stilly, good morning. How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you guys?
Fabulous as well. I am curious,
Super.
Based on what we were just talking about, when that day comes, if that day comes, whether it's the White Sox or someone else, and Nashville ends up with a baseball team, what are you going to do? You're a big Braves guy. Like, how are you going to feel about that?
Look, I have been on record with saying, that I feel like I'm very fair and honest on the radio when it comes to the Titans and the Predators and the SEC and Vanderbilt and the Vols. And I try to be like an umpire where I just call balls and strikes the way I see them. And I have also been on the record as saying, and Ian backed me up on this, that if we ever get a Major League Baseball team, you'll never see anybody kiss more ass than me when it comes to trying to get the job to call those games on TV. I mean, I'll be a honk and a half if I get to call the 3-game set between the Nashville White Sox and the New York Yankees. So I am all on board. I think this Justin Ishbia is the greatest man who's ever alive. But I will say this. I was just, I read the thing yesterday when it sounds like it's going to be a longer plan, but it seems very similar to the Bill Haslam and Herb Fritch transition with Justin Ishbia and Jerry Reinsdorf with the White Sox. And not only is Justin Ishbia and the Ishbia family, not only are they rich enough where I've said, like, look, if you're going to bring a team to town, that guy's probably going to have to pay for a stadium one way or another, which is why when everybody kept telling me, Nashville's in line for expansion, I said, I just don't see that happening, because I don't see somebody paying $3 billion for a franchise fee and then also paying, $3 billion for a stadium, and now you're in for $6 billion. I just didn't see that happening before you even sign your first player. But I do see like a team moving and then somebody paying for the stadium. So I think that they have enough money to be able to pay for a stadium and then make it kind of a privatized where they reap all the benefits kind of thing. And the other thing is they have an office, this Shore Capital, which I didn't even know existed until 20 minutes ago. Shore Capital has a location in Chicago and a location in Nashville. And Justin Ishbia graduated law school at Vanderbilt and is a member of the board of trust at Vanderbilt. And so if there's anybody that would say, hey, I got no problem with Nashville, I would assume it's this guy who, again, has an office here and went to Vandy Law. Like, I think there's some juice here, folks. I think there's a little something brewing. And the White Sox are masters over the years of using leverage to get a new stadium built. The only reason Tampa Bay has a baseball team, because they don't have any fans. The only reason Tampa Bay has a baseball team is because Tampa built what is now Tropicana Field. They built that dome in order to lure the Chicago White Sox, who they thought they had a deal in place and the White Sox were coming. And at the 11th hour, the White Sox struck a deal with Chicago. And then the Giants, who they thought were going to come, they ended up striking a deal in San Francisco. And so to avoid being sued by the city of Tampa, Major League Baseball awarded them a franchise. So let's keep that in mind with Reinsdorf and the White Sox. And I think the Nashville thing the entire time has been a leverage play to get a new stadium in Chicago. But I would have no problem with the Chicago White Sox wanting to move here, especially knowing that by them moving here, Jerry Reinsdorf, who I think is the biggest thing holding it up, is out. So I would love it. I'm on board, and you'll never see anybody kiss as much tush as me when it comes to Nashville getting a major league team.
So I got a problem with you that we got to get to here. All right. I don't understand what you're doing with this Vanderbilt baseball stuff. I really don't. This seems so unlike you, worrying about like a weekend regular season series rather than postseason success when it comes down to recent history. It'd be like the Predators winning a few games against Colorado and then Colorado going on to win the Stanley Cup in the playoffs. I don't understand what you're talking
Tennessee
about
is not
with Vanderbilt
and
reclaiming
won the championship.
I understand that, but they are the defending national champions. They're going to the Super Regional. We'll see where it goes from here. But, I mean, come on. Vanderbilt has fallen flat on their face in the postseason the last 4 years. And here you are sitting there talking about how they've reclaimed the best team in the state from Tennessee. What are we doing?
So I thought about this. If you were to go and you were to ask Michigan fans, who is on top of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry right now? The answer is Michigan, even though Ohio State won the national title last year. The answer is Michigan because the games you play matter.
Michigan also won the national title the year before that, so it's not a great example.
And they've won 4 straight, Jared. You don't see the difference between that and what we're talking about here?
3 out of 4 Vanderbilt this year on UT, 10-1 or 10-0.
Right, but it's also baseball. So let's go through those years and add up the total. The Vols have a decisive advantage.
I do not, at this point in time, I do not think that Tennessee's 1 national championship outweighs Vanderbilt's 2 national championships, plus the fact that Vanderbilt beat Tennessee convincingly this season. Now, if Tennessee gets back,
so let's
to
ignore
Omaha,
all the other data. Let's ignore the other data.
Matters to elite programs. If Tennessee gets back to Omaha, then Tennessee, in my opinion, reclaims the top spot. If Tennessee loses this weekend to Arkansas, this is the thing about elite programs. Like, if Tennessee loses to Arkansas this weekend, then this season will kind of be, in my opinion, a forgotten season, and we'll move on because that's what happens with elite programs. And it's the same in basketball. You know, Duke basketball doesn't look back at a Sweet 16 and say, hey, we made the Sweet 16. And that's what the Super Regionals are in baseball. It's great that you're in it now. It's great. But again, Tennessee's got to take that next step to get to Omaha. And then I've said on record, if Tennessee gets to Omaha, then they'll take the top spot back. But they have to get to Omaha first.
So again, you're mentioning, it's getting to the Supers and we deal. Okay, fine.
The thing with
Vanderbilt
with
hasn't done that.
Vanderbilt
hasn't done that since
the top
2021.
spot? Do you two believe that Vanderbilt took the top spot back when they won 10-0 in the SEC tournament?
No,
we said
okay,
what would happen
if
if
you have to the argument?
You have to, you have to do things in the postseason.
I believe this season Vanderbilt took the top spot back because as you get further distanced away from Tennessee's national title, which happened a year ago with a collection of players that is not this current group, as you get further away from that, Vanderbilt threw their counterpunch to Tennessee this year, I thought made a statement with the way they played against the Vols this season. And so now the onus to me is on the Vols to reclaim the top spot. And the only way you do that is by getting to Omaha.
Great. The guys that won Vanderbilt's first national championship are 36 years old now, Jared. Wonderful. I mean, your logic is like there's pretzel logic and then there's whatever you're doing on this. It's truly amazing. I disagree with Robby, though. I think Robby has a very bad take. He's like, well, Jared, his takes really normally make sense, and I totally follow along. I'm like, really? Like, we need to come up with a list, man. I don't think you're that out of your element with this take. But
if I had to
take.
assign a percentage to it, I'd say I align with Jared more often than people think.
Joe Rexrode yesterday sent me a text when I was talking about, I think what's a problem that the NBA has, and it's not the NBA's fault, it's just reality, that the NBA has gone from Larry Bird to Magic Johnson to Michael Jordan to Kobe Bryant to LeBron James. And now who's after LeBron? And Joe texted me, Donovan Mitchell, ?
No,
Again,
do you want me to read the text? You want me to read the text?
Larry, Magic,
the first person, I said Luka Doncic.
Kobe. Yeah, he's too fat.
Okay.
He stinks. He's out in the first round. See ya.
Then I said Jokic. Then I said Anthony Edwards. Then I said Giannis. And then the fifth player.
Anthony Edwards, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and won't take more than 5 shots in a Western Conference, Anthony Edwards.
This is you being dishonest about what you said. You said there's no stars. You didn't just say, like, there's yes, there's not one obvious guy to take it from LeBron, but there are plenty of stars in the NBA. That's another thing you said, which was inaccurate.
I didn't say there are no stars in the NBA. I said there are no Kobes. And there's a difference between star and Kobe.
Yeah, you said the right, but that's fine. Well, You know what? I'll do some hard Jared work, hard Jared work, and listen to you, and then we'll cut it up and we'll play it for you. Okay.
Again,
Next week.
Donovan
I'll play it for you
Mitchell,
next week.
Question mark. I'm
That
like,
was the fifth
oh my
guy.
God.
Yeah, again,
Oh, my
because you said
God.
there are no stars, which is not accurate.
I said that there are no Kobe's. I said there are no Michaels in the game right now, which the NBA, and I hate to say it, the NBA needs that guy, that polarizing guy that half the people love. And, you know, like everybody loved Michael Jordan with the exception of Joe and Ian, because Ian liked the Knicks and Joe liked the Pistons. But everybody liked Michael Jordan, and everybody turned on the TV for Michael Jordan. And, you know, it was funny because I was listening to Barkley. You know, he went on a rant about when did we decide that winning the championship is what makes you a great player or not? And it does make a lot of sense, because we don't sit there and say, like, man, I'll tell you, Babe Ruth won X amount of World Series, so he must be better than Willie Mays, who didn't win as many World Series. We don't do that in baseball or anything like that. But I believe that the winning the championship became this big thing in basketball, not because of the defense of Michael with 6 titles, but because when Michael was becoming the best player in basketball, the defense of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson was that they win championships and Michael Jordan wins scoring titles. And then Michael started winning titles. So who's the next guy? You know, that's the big question with basketball. And I'm going to say this. I absolutely love
please
the
keep
fact
talking
that
by all
the
means.
NBA players voted Tyrese Hallebertton as the most overrated player in the game. And he has stuck his foot up the entire league's rear end over the last month. And he did it again last night. I mean, I love it. And so, again, maybe Halliburton's the guy, even though the players think he sucks. I don't know. But I will tell you, as of right now,
there's a lot of great players. There's a lot of great players. It's a great product. I mean, just stop bitching. How about
you
that?
think the NBA is a great product?
Absolutely, it's a great product. 100%. And if you love basketball, then it's very easy to see that. Yes.
Explain to me
Robby
why
and I like basketball. I'm sorry that you don't.
Explain to me, Joe. Joe, I'm going to give you about it's your show, but I'm going to give you about a minute.
What are you going to allot me, Jared? You're going to allot me some time?
I want you to give me a statement as to why you think basketball is a good product right now. The NBA, the current NBA game. Give me a statement. Robby, do you want to guess why I'm asking Joe to give me a statement here?
I'm sure you're going to play it later.
Yeah,
I'm going to have Ian cut it, and we're going to play it. So, Joe,
we've already talked
defend
about it.
the NBA. Go.
Hey, Jared, shut up. Thanks. We've already talked about it. LD from McMinnville says, please ask Jared about his comparison to Cam Ward. Maybe we should talk about your hard work, Jared. How about that? Why don't you cut that?
So
up?
You don't want to defend the
I've
NBA.
already talked about it. Go back and listen.
The people in the car
jackass.
right now weren't the people that were in the car at 6:20. So they want to know right now. You bury your defense of the NBA in comparison to what the NBA used to be, which the NBA used to be great. And now the NBA, hate to say it, kind of stinks. And you bury it at 6 o'clock, and now you will not defend it today.
I mean, you are seriously like a carnival barker. Like, I don't even know. What are you talking about? You don't dictate what I say on my show, and I've already talked about it. And it's a great product. I don't have to say anything else. It's a great product.
What makes it a great product, Joe?
Great players, great teams, different styles of play. There's way more variance in how teams defend teams now. There's different styles of play. It's the highest talent level it's ever been. The teams now would destroy the teams that I loved from my youth, destroy them. But we can believe this in all the other sports. Like, nobody would sit here and say, hey, let's bring that 80s football team to the NFL now and see what happened. They'd lose by 40, Jared. We agree about all the other sports. In Olympic sports, everybody gets bigger, stronger, faster. But somehow, no. I mean, I love my Detroit Pistons, Jared. Rick Mahorn, Mark Aguirre, bunch of these guys, they'd be laughed at if they tried to play in the freaking league now. I've said it a million times. It continues to get better. It is the best it's ever been in terms of an overall product, an overall talent level. Is that enough for you? Is that enough? You got more time, Jared? You need more time?
You think if 27-year-old Michael Jordan were transported into today's NBA,
he'd be a great player.
You think that Michael Jordan wouldn't be Michael Jordan?
I just said he'd be a great player. The great players from different eras, absolutely would be great. Robby and I have talked about this. Robby agrees. The overall talent level is so different. The overall skill level, the skill development, what people do to work on their games and their bodies, so different than it used to be. These dudes used to eat 3 cheeseburgers and go out and hung over. And I mean, dude, get out of here. Like you are just part of the problem of people who somehow in this sport can't see how things continue to advance in every element of sports and building athletes. It's amazing. But thank you for displaying your ignorance by demanding that I defend my take. Go away.
At 27 years old, Michael Jordan played 82 games, which is something that the superstars don't like to do anymore. Michael Jordan played 82 games. That's
because of the analytics people in the NBA. It's not because of LeBron. It's because these people have figured out, you know what? If you take 10 games off, the postseason performance goes up. That is not the fault of the players. That is the fault of the front offices.
So in 82 games, Michael averaged 31.5 points a game. He was the MVP, and he was also named the first team defensive team.
You're still talking?
In the playoffs, Michael averaged 31 points a game. So I guess the 82 games didn't slow Michael down as he won an NBA title and played in 17 games and averaged 31 a game. He played 82 the next year and averaged 34.5 in the playoffs the next year.
Why have we switched to Michael
guys
Jordan
today
scoring
are
averages?
better than Michael
This is the
Jordan.
discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Jared.
Unbelievable. He just
Joe Rexrode
I never said
Michael Jordan would just be a guy in today's NBA.
I never said that. I just said he'd be
today's NBA is better than yesteryear's NBA.
I'm glad.
615-737-1025.
2-6 later today. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, get him off the line. Like think about that. Like I just said he would be a star. I said all that. And then he just completely I mean the guy's a liar. But the great thing is we all just heard him. This is what he does. He just lies. I did not say that whatsoever. But hey, some good segments for Jared later. Congrats, Jared.
Joe's mad. We'll take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode 1025-1063 the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, which, by the way, is absolutely popping right now after Stilly's little segment last time out. Joe, how we doing over there?
I just, at some point, I feel like the little meme of the one guy with the sword.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones. I mean,
the army coming the other way. Yeah.
Like there's an incredible amount of ignorance out here, man. Like you got Chip from Mount Joe. They all just play for 1 to 5 individuals. Now I've got Jabari on the YouTube chat saying there are 0 skilled big men now.
I saw that.
Remember when the Warriors drafted James White? Yes, there were 0 skilled. Yeah, you can't find any skilled big men out there. I mean, who could ever find one of those in the NBA? I don't know. If you hate the NBA, hate the NBA. Again, late 80s NBA. This is what I said in the YouTube chat. It's my favorite thing of sports. It's my favorite time. I will always love it more than I love the current NBA or any other era of the NBA. The rivalries, you can't make that stuff up.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a rant coming, because I got triggered by a personal text today. So just get excited for it. But again, and now of course Jared will twist it. I never said like Michael Jordan would not just be a guy today. He would be a star. We've talked about this. You've agreed with me. In fact, I think you made the point previously on the show. You know, anybody who says Jordan wouldn't be a star today, that's stupid. Of course he would be.
Yeah.
But then there are also people who say LeBron wouldn't be able to handle the physicality of the. I mean, my God, he'd dunk on everyone's head and laugh. And
that may be my favorite take in the history of sports.
I mean,
just the people who think LeBron couldn't play in the 90s. It's like, okay, he's 6'8", 275 pounds.
I mean, my God, just
and runs like a 4.3 40 in his prime.
Yes. What I would ask people is to actually go back and watch one of those games. I actually do sometimes. I love it that much. I mean, I probably still have somewhere my VHS tapes of like the Pistons championship teams, you know, and those games were great. And again, you can't replicate like all the different bitter rivalries. Obviously Magic Bird, but even like Bird and Dr. J. And of course, the Pistons and Celtics hated each other. And then you got to the Pistons and Bulls, and Michael Jordan would be a great player now. He was then. He was a great player. Look, I think it was very impressive that Jordan, in his 4 times that he faced Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons, got 1 series win.
There we go.
And the 3 series losses that he had, by the way, were in his prime with Scottie Pippen, and he lost all 3 of those. Still, great player. He would be one now. The overall talent level of the league is vastly improved from then to now. Like, again,
and by the way, Michael Jordan has something to do with that, by the way. We always talk about the dream team. Like did you watch the Olympics last year? Like the game of basketball, the global part of it, other countries have gotten way better at this thing.
Right, which is part of why I love it. I love what's happening in the college game now with like all these European guys are finding that, look, it's more money to play for a good college. And some, like Illinois, for example, is an example of a program that's figured this out. Yeah, let's get some like talented Euros over here. And it's great. More people in the world who are high-level basketball players just makes the product better. It's way better. Again, you can hate it. That's fine. But like some of these criticisms about like the style of play, lack of defense, don't play team basketball, like you're just ignorant. You don't actually watch. If you don't watch, great. Hate basketball. I don't care. But if you're going to pretend to analyze basketball and then you're going to come with ignorance, I don't want you in the discussion. Jacob on the YouTube chat says there seems to be no middle ground with regards to the NBA right now. You either love it and think it's pretty great, or you hate it, romanticize the 80s and 90s in a way that we don't do with other sports. I totally agree. Again, I love it. It is a great product. Like the fact that Jared's like, you make the case and it's a great product. Yeah, dude. I mean, we've talked about it many times. I don't know what to tell you. You're allowed to hate basketball. Hate it. Yeah. But you can't tell me, looking at all these different teams, different styles of play, all these great players, way more great players than there used to be. No, there's not. I don't know who the next singular superstar is. I think Luka probably has as good a chance as anyone, and he does have to like get more serious. But the game is great.
I agree, and I like the talent level is awesome. Now there's still some problems I have with the league. Like more of it has to do with like what some of the stuff Adam Silver's like the play-in tournament and the the stupid all-star format stuff. Like, they got a lot of problems they got to figure out on that front. And look,
Yes.
I do have sympathy for people who say, like, I hate teams shooting 55 threes a game. Like, I don't like that either. So, like, it's not
But
perfect.
they don't all do that every
They don't
night.
all do that, and the talent level is what we're talking about here, and the talent level is just way different than it used to be. So I think you can recognize both things. It's not a perfect game. There are some problems that they got to get figured out, and it also, like, not every team from the 90s and 80s would kick the crap out of today's teams. I think we got to live in reality with these discussions. Joe, there is a piece of audio that we've got to get to coming up next that is just absolutely hilarious. And if you're a Tennessee fan, you'll find it even more hilarious or maybe depressing. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. The PFL World Championship semifinals are Thursday, June the 12th at Municipal Auditorium, and you can be there. Text in the keyword MATCH to 615-737-1025 to be entered to win a pair of VIP ringside tickets. Visit pflmma.com/schedule for more details. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll have Terron Davenport coming up at 8 o'clock, the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode at 7:45. Joe, you have stumbled across a story in college football that frankly is just hilarious. So A.J. McCarron, former Alabama quarterback, was on his podcast, which I think is called Dynasty, and he was going through like basically his recruiting process and told a story of a hilarious intersection of two Tennessee coaches, one being Lane Kiffin and the other at the time and what would become future head coach Jeremy Pruitt, who was an assistant on Alabama's staff at that time. And here is what A.J. McCarron said about his being recruited by both Tennessee and Alabama.
Lance Thompson was the recruiter for Mobile and Trent's area, like the whole southeast, right? So he ends up leaving and joining Lane Kiffin at Tennessee. And Lane, I think, got the head job early December 2008. Well, this is leading up a couple months, probably 2 months away from signing day. And Jeremy Pruitt had been hired to take over our area. And Coach Saban was like, hey, I want you to go down. AJ had said, like, Tennessee's starting to hit him up, and Lance is from down there. So go down, watch his house. And I want to know if Lance is trying to backdoor us and steal him away. And he's like, all right. Well, Pruitt comes down, and he's sitting in front of the house, and he had been there for about 2 days. And one morning, I'm knocked out. I think Dad's at the fire station. I'm sleeping. All of a sudden, I get a bang on my window, bedroom window. Bam, 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 bam.
Smokey!
Yeah. Smokey! I wake up, and I'm like, who the hell is banging on my window? And I open up the blinds, and it's Lane and Lance are leaned down near my window going like this. And I look behind them, and it's the whole offensive coaching staff for Tennessee.
Hanging outside your window.
Outside my window. And all you hear is Lance, let me in, let us in. And I'm like, all right. And so go let them in. Well, it's probably 30 minutes, hour later after they had left, Coach Saban calls me. He's like, what you doing, boy? I was like, oh, nothing. Just getting my day going. I said, but I just had a full-on interview and meeting with the whole Tennessee staff. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, the whole staff was down here in my living room, and we were here for about 30, 45 minutes. And he said, I told Pruitt, Sass, to get down there and watch your house. Let me call him. And so he calls him. He's like, damn it, Pruitt, what are you doing? He's like, I'm nothing, Coach. I'm sitting in front of AJ's house. Like you told me. He said, no, the hell you're not. Tennessee just left. And he's like, no, Coach, they haven't. Nobody's left the house. Nobody's even showed up to the house. So he gets out. He's like, let me go check. Knocks on the door. My little old lady down the street from me answers. He's like, is AJ here? And she's like, AJ doesn't live here. He lives 6 houses down that way.
Joe,
Oh my God!
I don't know that I've ever heard a story that sums up Jeremy Pruitt quite like that one. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff from A.J. McCarron.
That is absolutely incredible. I'm just trying. I wish we could see like the absolute meltdown of Saban at that moment.
I could. Yeah. First
when
off,
Jeremy explained to him what
everything he described about every one of those characters, you can just picture in your mind. From Lane Kiffin, like dangling outside of a bedroom window, knocking on the door or on the window of a recruit, sneaking in, to Jeremy Pruitt being totally oblivious to the entire thing, 6 houses down at the wrong house, to Saban absolutely losing his mind on Pruitt. I would imagine, Joe, I can't prove this, but the day that Tennessee and Philip Fulmer hired Jeremy Pruitt, Nick Saban was just like, oh, thank God. Yes, this is awesome.
I can
I
assure
mean,
you
I
that the
get
gap is closing.
that's the crazy thing, though. Like, you're probably right, but he also did have him as his DC, right?
Yeah,
So,
but I mean, we all know being
Yeah.
DC for Alabama, what has that really meant over the years?
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
Saban. Now, Kirby Smart, for sure. A lot of Saban involvement in that.
That's the thing. It's hard to distinguish sometimes because Kirby has turned out to be great, and Pruitt just a total goober. I mean, it's just first of all, I've never heard of a story. You hear a lot of crazy recruiting stories, but like basically Pruitt was on like a FBI stakeout,
Yeah.
Like, did he have a little mustache and a hat and sunglasses? Like, I mean, and also, what if I guess then the orders are just to call Saban, right? Like Saban's not like, now if you see Tennessee going in there, you get in there and you
Stand
go ahead,
guard at the door.
yeah, like tackle Lane from the side and just blast him. Like, what's he supposed to do? I mean, he actually deployed a coach to just watch the house of a recruit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, man. And of
It's-
course, this
it's-
goes right back to like when shortly after he had hired Pruitt away from Hoover High School in Hoover, Alabama. Amazing stuff. He lives down the street. Like, I got to know. Like, did he just get a number wrong in the address?
Is Pruitt giving like hourly
wrong?
reports? He's giving like hourly reports to Saban. He's like, hey, coach, there's a stray cat that's wandering down the sidewalk. You think Tennessee might have sent that? Throw me off the scent? I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah, Caleb points out, I'm pretty sure he won Recruiter of the Year at Alabama too. Hey, if you're going to put in this kind of effort, now this is hard work. We talk a lot about hard work on our station. This is hard. He's staking out a high school kid's house
Hey, coach,
at all hours of the day. That's
you wouldn't
hard
believe
work.
it. The postman doesn't show up until 5:00. How do you even get your mail around here?
Oh man, Jeremy Pruitt. Now this is one of those things. Pruitt's been kind of, he's trying to, and he did a little media stuff last year, trying to kind of keep himself in the game. Like, does something like this just completely undercut any hope he had of getting hired by anyone?
I don't know. Like, I really wish that he didn't have, like a show cause. I need him back in the game in some capacity. I need him back on the sideline somewhere, whether it's punching a whiteboard, whatever it is. I need him back in there.
Well, and the thing is, even with a show cause, like, you can still, I mean, like, I think he could be an analyst for someone, Like, I mean, like some of those jobs, they have nothing to do with recruiting, anything like that. I don't think it would be like, a problem for the program. The question is, would you want? Obviously he's a good detective.
Yeah, maybe that's what he's doing now. He's private investigator somewhere. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. That may be my favorite story of all time. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode.
It's amazing.
Coming up next, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Born and raised downriver.
Joe, I'm going to give you about it's your show, but I'm going to give you about a minute.
What are you going to allot me, Jared? You're going to allot me some time?
When I was a kid and we used to play football in the parking lot,
Right.
I would design very good plays.
Geographically,
There's not a south part of Detroit.
it's just
North,
east, and
south,
west.
east.
You bury your defense of the NBA in comparison to what the NBA used to be, which the NBA used to be great. And now the NBA, hate to say it, kind of stinks.
I know for a fact. I'm just guessing also, really.
Hey, Jared, shut up. Thanks.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. Ian is just an absolute pro at these little mashups. Rexrode, the floor is yours. I turn it over to you.
Good stuff. And actually, this is not Jared triggering me on this. I have to. First of all, I'm arguing on a variety of fronts on the NBA. Let me just again. Now, Ed is coming at me with like the player-driven league and the super teams. You think that's good for the league? Again, we just talked about Adam Silver. I'm not saying the league's perfect. There are plenty of issues. I hate the play-in tournament too. I hate the play-in. I hate the early season tournament. The All-Star game is. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that sucks. I don't watch a ton of NBA regular season basketball. I don't watch a ton of regular season NHL hockey either. When both tournaments come, I'm absolutely giddy with excitement, and they always deliver. They don't. We don't always get like a great final series, but there are always great series, and the games continue to progress. Like again, you look at the investment in everything, in analytics, in sports science, in nutrition, training, skill development, any sport you want. Look, I don't like baseball as much as I used to either, and I think there's a parallel. Baseball is home run, strikeout, feast, famine more than it used to be. I feel like I hate the second guy, the freaking runner on second and extra innings and stuff like that. But like, there's not an argument to make that baseball players haven't continued to develop. I mean, look at some of the stuff that is coming out of the hands of these pitchers right now. Everybody throws 98 with absurd movement. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like, but for some reason, I think most people can get there on all the sports. Maybe not. Maybe someone out there wants to tell me. Maybe Sean Henry wants to tell me his 87 New York Giants would just destroy, the Philadelphia Eagles of today. But I doubt it. I doubt he'd say that because we all have brains and eyes. With basketball, for some reason, people can't get it. I'll always love the late 80s NBA the most. But again, go watch those games. Michael Jordan, would he be a great player today? Of course, as I said, as Jared twisted my words. Are there way more players in the league today who would have a chance of guarding him than there were?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. It's very simple. But I'm going to go to Dane from Nolensville, who just triggered me, man, because I've probably ranted about this. I mean, how many new rants can there really be, Robby?
Not many.
But if I have, I apologize. But I think that this is a good one to revisit every once in a while. Like I said earlier, Michael Jordan, great player. He won those 6 titles in the 90s, and the league had kind of dipped overall a little bit, but still great. Won those championships and all that. Now, when he was in his prime, and I mean his prime, you're talking he was 20. Let's see, born. Okay, so he was 24. 25 and 26 as a 4th, 5th, and 6th-year pro with Scottie Pippen and all those guys when he got his ass kicked 3 years in a row by the Pistons. So it happens. But he got him. He got him one time. Good for you, Michael Jordan. The big thing that triggered me today is at the time he got him, 1991, and the Bulls swept on their way to the first championship, beat Magic Johnson and the Lakers in the finals. There's still people, including Dane from Nolensville today, who texts me. The Pistons walked off the court with 8 seconds left. What a bunch of bleep losers.
Bad sports.
Yes. So I want to take you back 4 years earlier. something no one talks about, but let's talk about it. 1987, 3 years earlier, 1988, the Pistons finally beat the hated Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, Game 6 at home. And they send them packing, and the Pistons are going to the finals, and everybody's celebrating in the Pontiac Silverdome. And guess what happens? The whiny-ass Celtics walk off the floor without shaking anybody's hand. But does anybody ever talk about that? Oh, no. No, let's vilify the Pistons for doing what other teams did, but let's ignore that Larry Bird and Dennis Johnson and Robert Parrish and freaking Danny Ainge walked their ass off the court to the locker room and didn't say a damn thing to anybody. We never talk about that. But you know what we talk about? Kevin McHale, because he was the guy who came to Isaiah and he said, hey, don't just be happy to win this, go beat the Lakers. And they slapped hands, and so it was like, wow, great sportsmanship, Kevin McHale. Okay, well, guess what? In 1991, when Isaiah and Lambeer and Rodman walked off and said, screw you, basically double middles to the Bulls, because that day in the newspapers, which is what people cared about then, the newspapers, a big story in the Chicago papers, Michael Jordan, the Pistons have ruined the NBA, and I'm here to save the NBA. Their style of play, blah, 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 whiny little bitch. So the Pistons said, screw you, and walked off. But no one ever talks about Joe Dumars, John Sally. At least those two did the same thing McHale did. They said, hey, Michael, good job. Congratulations. Go win the final. Why?
I think the Pistons were incredibly bad sports. I think it's just bad sportsmanship from the Pistons.
Well, look, I'm not saying that I'm not saying it wasn't bad sportsmanship. Isaiah, Lambeer, those guys weren't good. I mean, they were not good sportsmanship guys. Okay,
crybabies.
But
breaking news.
Let's not pretend like I know. Let's not pretend like Jordan was. Let's not pretend like Larry Bird was. Again, Larry Bird, the same exact thing. But we never talk about that. So I just want to make sure that we have the record set straight on that. Dane from Nolansville. So the next time that you want to talk, the Pistons walked out the floor, just remember those glorious Larry Bird-led Celtics did the same thing when they beat them. You know, these teams hate each other back then. And that is where I will agree with people. That's why I will never love the NBA more than I loved it then, because of that. The absolute bitter rivalries. The fans attach themselves to their teams, their players, and it was amazing when you won, and it was absolutely awful when you lost. I mean, look, man, 75% success against Jordan in the playoffs, I'll take it, but I wish it was 1,000, Good for him for getting his one little win. It will never be as good as that in terms of loving it for me and for a lot of people. But some people are trying to say the game was better, the talent was, it's just insane, and I can't deal with it, Robbie.
I'm just glad that they finally realized how overrated Isaiah was and kept him off the dream team. I'm glad we finally got there.
Oh, my God.
I'm just trying to see exactly how red-faced we could get you today.
I know. I mean, we sat here and had Jared on here. I'll give you 1 minute to make your case. And then I said something, and he said, oh, you're saying Jordan would have been just another guy. I'll be a segment later. I didn't say that. Long fuse. Why on a Friday?
It's been a beautiful day on the program. Terron Davenport will be with us coming up next. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ESPN's Terron Davenport talking Titans now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week. We head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Terron Davenport to the program, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD. TD, good morning. How are we doing? What's going on?
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
Doing awesome, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, TD, I'm just curious from your perspective, who are some guys that you're watching as minicamp starts next week, as we're right around the corner from training camp, that you're really intrigued by with the Titans that maybe you don't think are getting enough attention or enough conversation as we're heading into camp?
Well, I'll start with Alec Manor. I think as a rookie and being the third of the 3 fourth-round picks, he has the best shot to start out of all those guys. So I'm going to be watching him. I think he has an inside shot at that X position. I'll be watching Cody Barton, also the veteran linebacker they signed. I like watching just the way he communicates and just how he's a leader on the field. So you got those two kind of continuing to run through. Dan Moore Jr., I need to put a little more eyes on the offensive line. There's only so much you can see, but with them not having pads on, you can still see how their footwork is and how they're doing as far as like keeping the defender in front of them. So those are 3 guys off the top that I'll be watching.
TD, I know we've talked some about like some of the things that Brian Callahan wants, is trying to get different guys in different groups and some of the leadership stuff. But what about him in particular? Does he seem different to you at all than he was a year ago?
I think he seems more confident, honestly. And it's crazy to think that you could get more confident after a 3-14 season. But I think when you look at the been there and done that part of it, and one of the things I was telling Jared yesterday on the Power Hour was confidence a lot of times comes from your preparation. And it just from seeing some of the things, getting a little bit of an inside look at some of the things that they have in place, it's very, very clear that there was a lot of preparation and work put into making sure that they don't have a repeat of last year and looking at different things and breaking it down to the most minute detail. So I think from all of that comes confidence because he believes in what he did, the self-reflection and the improvement effort that as a staff they did.
TD, we talked a lot about Calvin Ridley this week. It's taken him some time to get going in each of the past 2 years, both with Jacksonville and certainly last year with the Titans. I mean, it sounds like based on what he said, what Cam Ward has said, that their relationship is off to a great start. Things are going well, and we'll see how quickly they can click on the field. But what's your confidence level in Ridley that he can be going and productive right from the jump this year to help his rookie quarterback?
I think there's a really good chance. My confidence level in that is high. And you mentioned the last 2 years. Well, each of those years, he was getting acclimated to a new offense and in a new environment. This year, he's back where he was last year. So that's a good thing. And then I think you just look at he and Cameron Ward, the chemistry that they have brewing is there. And, a lot of times last year, like he was the read, like he was the call. It was supposed to go to him, but for whatever reason, it didn't. So I'm guessing this year, with Cameron Ward there, I think he'll be able to make those reads and follow those calls and get him the ball early in games like they were intending multiple times last year.
We've talked some this week, TD, about pass rush. Obviously, there's the Jeffrey Simmons discussion. I don't know if in the Power Hour yesterday still they got into, they need to try to trade Simmons or, they got to strip his captaincy. He wants some sort of retribution. But, obviously Simmons and Sweat inside was not as dominant as I thought it might be last year. I still think it could be one of the stronger points of the team. But let's say it can take a step. Do they have enough? Is that enough interior wise to make their edge situation okay enough? I mean, how do you think that puzzle works together if those two guys like take a step forward together?
Well, it all has to be coordinated. That's really the main thing, and that's in talking to Ben Bloom, the outside backers coach, and Tracy Rocker, the D-line coach. That's the focus, is to have a more coordinated pass rush, because if you look at it, right, T'Vondre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, they get the interior pressure. They flush the quarterback to his left, and if Arden Key he runs the arc too deep, the quarterback has an escape window, and he could either run like a lot of them did last year, or he could throw it down the field. Like, it has to be coordinated, and everything has to be in place. And I think that's the bigger thing above just Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat. Because last year they got pressure. But there were a lot of times where, A, they didn't get home, and B, when they didn't get home, the quarterback was able to get out of the pocket because there wasn't that outside rush that was there to just kind of corral them, And I always liken the coordinated rush to National Geographic when you see the lions, and they're hunting the gazelle. Like, you got one group of them, they hunt the gazelle and they chase them and get them to flow one other direction right into the other group of lions. And that's basically what you're doing with that outside pass rush. If you're running the arc and you make them step up into the pocket, into the guys that are getting the interior pressure, or if you're getting the pressure and you make him flush out right to the guys that are getting the outside pressure. It all works together.
So, TD, I thought Brian Callahan's answer earlier this week on Cam Ward and showing up at 5 a.m. and the work that he's putting in was pretty interesting, just in terms of, obviously you love seeing a guy do that. He said, everybody starts off hot, and there are some things that are coming from just a scheduling standpoint and a workload standpoint that Ward just doesn't know and is not aware of yet. But I know that, what he's talked about, getting in there at 5 o'clock, the work that he's put in. Lewis Riddick has talked about just what an incredible worker that Ward is. Where do you come down on kind of that conversation of Ward and his willingness to get in the building early and the effect that has on his teammates?
Right. I like what he said about it being a marathon and understanding that. So for me, it's just he has to figure out a way to keep this same energy throughout the year, day in and day out, all the way up, as Brian Callahan said, through January. And that's going to be the big thing. But, I mean, make no mistake about it, it's rubbing off on the other guys. Like, I talked to Chinwe DK, and we talked about being able to play fast. And he's like, man, the stuff that we're going over, like the film work, and then just going over what we're going to do in practice later that day, and even looking at technique work from the guys that we're facing in practice, it's helping me play fast because I'm more comfortable and I'm more confident. And that's allowing me to just play the game naturally as opposed to being out there thinking so much. And it was a great point that he made, and it was right what I wanted to get him to tell me about, because that's important. This is a guy 4.37 at the combine. So, you have that. You have just the confidence that they're all getting. Gunnar Helm, had mentioned how early how Ward has them going in there at 5 a.m. The coaches like it. Tyke Tolbert loves it, the fact that the young receivers are getting in there. And then you look at the other day, was it Tuesday, right? With he and Xavier Restrepo, they're staying after, and they're working on different routes and things like that. So
this is an interesting thing, and all that sounds great. And that's, obviously Cam Ward, gets it and is doing the right things. It's also interesting to me when I think about this stuff. And again, a year ago, it was like, Will Levis, whatever, they're going to, I forget where they went, Cancun or something like that, things like that.
Yeah.
So in a situation like this, like, does Will Levis get extra work in with anyone too? Or is it like Will basically like take a back seat and like now Cam's going to do that stuff and you just got to figure it out on your own? This is another reason I question Will Levis still being here. But like, how does that work with a guy like him who used to be not just the starter, but the guy who would get everybody together, come work out, let's come early, let's stay late, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, he's still doing that. Levis was also after practice working with guys. And here's the thing with him. He has the right mindset. He understands. And he said, like, I understand, like, it's an uphill battle. I understand that. But I still have to prepare like I'm the starter. And that's the fact of the matter. Like, he's still in a competition. even when he ultimately loses the competition, because we know again that it's rigged against him, understandably, he still has to prepare to be the starter because you never know what could happen. I mean, listen, I watched 2 years, 2016. Carson Wentz came in, right, and he prepared to be the starter. Chase Daniel prepared to be the starter, and so did Sam Bradford, right? 3 guys preparing to be the starter. And next thing you know, Teddy Bridgewater goes down. Rick Spielman gives a first-round pick to the Eagles for Sam Bradford, and out of the blue, Carson Wentz, he's starting. And then what happened the following year? You had Carson Wentz as the starter. Nick Foles is in. Nick Foles prepared to be the starter. Week 11 against the Rams, Wentz blows his ACL. Foles comes in, and next thing you know, they went on one of the best playoff runs in the history of the league. So you always, even though you're the backup, you still prepare to be the starter because you never know.
Absolutely. TD, great stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir. TD, our guest, joins us every Friday morning at 8 o'clock. We'll react to what TD had to say. Coming up next, we got weekend winners coming up at 8:30 here on the program. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. I got some tickets to give away to see Lil Baby at Bridgestone Arena this Sunday night. Be caller 3, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a pair of tickets to see Lil Baby at Bridgestone Arena coming up this Sunday night. If you take a picture of Paul Kuharski in the crowd at the Lil Baby concert, you win some brownie points from me because I would love to see it. Love to see it coming up on Sunday night, Joe Rexrode.
I think that was the most disturbing Dennis Burnside illustration ever. Basically every one of them, I like laugh out loud. I love it when I was like, it was like PK in a diaper. I don't know. It just really kind of bothered me.
I kind of enjoyed it. It was pretty funny.
It was funny, but it's like one of those, like, someday I have this plan to like take all these, find them, and like make a book out of them. That one might not get its own page.
Wow. Hey, you'll be glad to know I got the Real ID stuff taken care of yesterday. Walk in.
Okay. So you just walked in. How long did you have to wait?
I walked in the door at 10:15. I walked out with everything completed at 2:00. So
did you stay the whole time?
I did.
Okay. That's pretty good, man. That's
one bad.
I'm pretty jealous after my several day ordeal. But good for you. We're all going to have Real ID soon.
Although I will say, like, there were people in there waiting and just getting like unbelievably upset about how long they were waiting. And my thought was, what exactly did you expect walking in here? Like, I'll be honest with you. I was fully prepared yesterday, Joe, to walk in the DMV at 10 a.m. and not walk out until like 6:30 last night. I was fully prepared for it. The fact that I got out at 2, I was thrilled by it. Absolutely. But there were people legitimately just over the top upset. And I wanted to just be like, I mean, guys, have you not been paying attention to what's going on around here right now? This is what's going on. This is what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's songs written about the DMV, okay? But also, I guess maybe if you're a person who is in for some mundane reason other than Real ID, and maybe like you're not familiar with the fact that this is happening, like, I guess, it could be
a lot
little
of tests
bit
going on
stunned.
yesterday. Yeah.
But it's what it is. I mean, and also long waits at the DMV. This is not a new thing. It's not a new thing in society.
No, it's been around.
But,
for a while.
the DMV was amazing in the 80s, late 80s. Amazing DMV. Just the best, the absolute greatest DMV of the late 80s. Right, Ed?
Yeah, nice. You're still upset. A lot of battling going on the text line right now.
Luckily I've got people on my side and I appreciate them. I mean, Jabari's like, well, if they're better, how come no one's touching Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point record? Yeah, dude. He was like he's playing against a bunch of fifth graders, turned around and just dropped the ball in the basket. What are we talking about?
Everyone's better, including the defenders who are defending the people playing offense.
Yes, Wilt Chamberlain was a unicorn back then in 1962 or whatever. He did that in Philadelphia. What year was that? That he got 100 points. I mean,
I can find out for you.
What are we talking about here? And it's going to come back up again.
You nailed it. 1962.
Okay, there you go. I mean, great. Like Wilt Chamberlain in 1962. There was put Wilt Chamberlain in the NBA right now. The exact same guy. Does he score 100 points?
Probably not.
Does he have a 50-point game? What are we doing here? You
say
just
he
made
probably
my
doesn't get to
argument
100.
for me, and you think you're making an argument for yourself.
Interesting stuff from TD there on the Titans front. He was talking about Io Manor, and it's a 4th-round pick, so it's not like the Titans spent a huge level of draft capital on him. He was the 3rd guy selected in the 4th round for them. I agree with him though. Like, he's probably got the best chance to start, like of those kind of guys we're talking about. I think you could absolutely be looking at, if they're going with 3 wide receivers in their personnel to start, you're probably looking at Ridley, Lockett, Io Manor, if I had to guess right now, just based on kind of their profiles and where things go. Still a lot of angry discussion and back and forth on Titans Twitter, Joe, about Xavier Restrepo. I saw Easton Freeze tweeting about this yesterday, about how like people just automatically assume that Xavier Restrepo is making the team and that he would put it 50-50 at best, maybe slightly better than 50-50. And boy, were there some people mad at Easton Freeze about not just automatically anointing Xavier Restrepo on the Tennessee Titans.
Really? Boy, it's really wild. So because I have guessed that he's making the team. I've guessed that, but I don't feel great about it. I mean, I think it's gonna be really close. It's going to come down to him and some of these other fringe guys, like a Bryce Oliver. Does it make sense to keep a Restrepo? I guess I get the production and I get the relationship with Cam Ward, but even if he makes the team, guys, like he's on the field this year only because of injury. I mean, I think he's either making the team or he's probably on the practice squad. I think if he doesn't make, I mean, again, we'll see how he does in camp. If it's clear that he's just not going to be in that room, they're probably safe exposing him and they can sign him to the practice squad, and they probably will. I think he'll be employed by the team this year, but I'm guessing make the team. But people who think it's like a lock or he's going to be some big difference maker, I can't quite get that one.
Well, I don't get where the lock's coming from. I mean, look, there are 4 spots that are spoken for, right? 4 spots. So you've got Ridley, Lockett, Io Manor, DK. Those guys are all making the team. They're all making the team. So you're talking about what, 2 spots? Like, are the Titans keeping 7 wide receivers? Are they keeping 6? Like, what? We're not talking about very many spots that are left. And you got Van Jefferson in the mix. You've got obviously Bryce Oliver in the mix, as we've talked about a lot of offseason. Well, there's 6 right there. So I'm not saying that Van Jefferson's a lock to make the team, because I don't think Van Jefferson should be a lock to make the team. I'm just saying there's not. I think some people are acting like there's like 4 spots to choose from here for Xavier Restrepo, and there's really not. There's like 2, maybe 3.
When you draft those 2 guys in the 4th round, I expect them both to be on the team. I think it would take pretty drastic incompetence in August for either of them to not make it. Like you said, I'm with you. I agree on Io Manor starting. I think that's a good bet, certainly. Yeah, both of them are going to be on the team. So again, there's 2 spots you take away. Those guys are locks or pretty close to it, whereas Restrepo is far from that. But I don't know. People are just enamored with. I guess if you were a Titans fan and went back and watched a lot of stuff from last year, you saw him a lot.
Sure.
And so I get that. It's exciting, but it doesn't always translate. Again, I think he's good. I think he's a good player. And as an NFL player, we'll just have to, we'll see. But yeah, so Easton said 50-50.
I think he said slightly better than 50-50.
Slightly better than 50-50. Yeah. Okay. I would think there'd be people mad the other way at that.
I would think so too. Like, I'll go less than 50-50. Like, I think we have to remember sometimes in these conversations, we're talking about an undrafted free agent. Not that it's impossible for those guys to make the team, but when you're an undrafted free agent, like, the odds are automatically stacked against you. I think there's some recognition that has to go on there. So I agree with people who say he's in a good situation as far as being an undrafted free agent when you're playing with your college quarterback and you're looking around at the wide receiver when it's not very impressive. I get that. So maybe he makes the team. I don't think it's anywhere near the lock that some Titans fans seem to think that it is, that Restrepo is going to be on the team. And certainly that he's going to be contributing.
Yeah, contributing would be an incredible story. Yeah, like if he's actually in the rotation week 1, that would require like first of all, if
probably the only a bad story for the rest of your receiving core.
Yeah, like 2 guys got hurt, or I don't even know what that would be. Again, there are guys like Lockett can play. I mean, we'll see how much he has left, but he can play. We know that Ridley can play. They drafted these guys who have much higher priority and are going to get better opportunity than he will. And then you have these other veterans as well. So, but hey, he's kind of he's the off season. He's one of those off season. I guess, does this mean, is it the same people who like keep saying that Mason Kinsey should be starting? Like, have they switched to Restrepo?
I don't know. It's going to be hard for both Mason Kinsey and Restrepo to make the team, I think.
But in all seriousness, that is a guy he's competing with. And Mason Kinsey plays well in practice and actually has acquitted himself solidly when he's had to be forced into action. Like, that's absolutely no gimme that he surpasses him.
I don't think there's any question about it. He's absolutely going to be in the mix there. So we'll see. I wouldn't go buy your Xavier Restrepo jerseys yet until the end of camp. Let's make for sure here that he's making the team at this point. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. Weekend winners coming up next. The competition is as tight as it gets as we're coming down to the final weeks of the competition. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you now
on ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is time for weekend winners here on the program. The NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final underway. Super regional action coming up this weekend for Tennessee. We will get into all of that on the program here today. First, a standings update in the competition. And Joe, we think we got 2 weeks left, maybe 3, but I think 2 in the competition here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we took it all the way to the end of the College World Series, we could probably get 2 more after this.
We'll see. We'll see what the powers that be decide in this discussion.
Okay.
I know this. We're all tied at 53 points. Every one of us have 53 points. Now, Ian has battled all the way back, not only has tied us in points, but technically is in first place because he has the best overall record, 46-38, 7-7 on his locks, 53 points. Rexrode 45-39, 8-6 on his locks, 53 points. I'm 44-40, 9-5 on my locks, also good for 53 points. So the standings, even though we all have the same amount of points, Ian's at first, Joe's at second, I'm at third as we head into action coming up this weekend. So, Ian, that means we begin with you. The Panthers and the Oilers coming up tonight in game number 2. Edmonton, a 1-0 series lead to this point. They are at home for game 2. Ian, who do you have in game 2 between the Panthers and the Oilers?
Yeah, I'm feeling not so great about all these picks this week. I'll be honest with you. I'm not having a great read on these series, maybe because it's so early on. I think I'm going to take Florida in game 2 to even the series. Edmonton with a big comeback, maybe spent a lot of energy. I know they get the extra day. Well, maybe not this time, but I'll take Florida game 2.
Going with Florida in game 2 on the road. Joe Rexrode, Florida, Edmonton, game 2. Who you got?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about this one. I think this is going to be a great series. I think they're both going to split the 2 games in the 2 buildings to start this out. We're going to have a 3-game series, so I like Florida.
I got Florida too, which makes me incredibly nervous about tonight's game. Edmonton could win 7-1, but I'll give Florida to win game 2. I just, first off, you saw them blow a 3-1 lead. I think they were 31-0 under Paul Maurice when leading after either the first or second period in the playoffs, and they blew that the other night. I think you're going to see them respond, and they're going to win in game 2 tonight. The thing will be 1-1 heading back to Florida. The Super Regional between Tennessee and Arkansas this weekend, Joe. It's simple. Who wins the series? Who comes out of the Super Regional and advances to Omaha to the College World Series? Is it Tennessee or is it Arkansas? Joe, we begin with you.
Yeah, this is a really tough one. It's the best Super. It's 2 teams that absolutely could win it all. They might be the 2 most talented teams. You might have, your odds-on favorite going into Omaha winning. And again, that means the loser could have been 2, and they're going to be heading home. As much as I love what the Vols have done in this postseason, Arkansas has had these disappointments in recent years with great teams. And I just think that this is a year that they atone for that and really make a run for a title. It's unfortunate that the bracket broke this way because they should both be in Omaha, but I'm going to go with the Hogs at home.
The Vols are going hog hunting, baby. Tennessee wins. Tennessee advances to the College World Series, and Tennessee, thankfully to them, get to appeal to Jared Stillman to finally get the title back of being the best team in the state, Joe Rexrode. It happens this weekend.
That's their rallying cry.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what Vitello's talking about right now. Ian Safar, Tennessee, Arkansas, who's winning?
This is also very tough. I've been going back and forth pretty much all morning on this one. Arkansas with the home field there, hosting the Super. They've both made some good postseason runs lately. They're both, Arkansas has the second best odds, Tennessee the third best odds.
Yep.
I'm torn. I guess I think I'm going to have to take Arkansas though. Also, I think I'm going to lean Arkansas. I'm going to stick with what I had down. I almost switched, but I'm going to stick with Arkansas.
Ian and Rexrode calling the Hogs live here on the program is what you're hearing right now. The Pacers and the Thunder coming up in game 2. The Thunder are an 11-point favorite on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm first on this one. Give me the Thunder. That line seems crazy. I think the Thunder are going to respond in a huge way in game 2, and they cover the 11-point spread. Ian Safar, Thunder, favored by 11 in game 2.
It is a big number. I do expect OKC to win this game. but that is a big number. I circled the Pacers plus 11, so I think I'm going to go with the Pacers.
Ian going with Indiana. Rexrode, Thunder favored by 11 in game 2.
Indiana's been amazing, but let's also remember, Cleveland destroyed them in one of those games on their home court. The Knicks beat them, came back in game 3 on their home court. Then the Knicks handled them in game 5 at the Garden. They haven't been perfect. And if there was ever a get-right game and just an absolute response from what I still believe is a superior team, this is it. Give me the Thunder. I'll give the points.
Going Thunder minus the 11 coming up in game 2. We move to the individual portion of the program. Ian Safar, your first individual selection.
Okay, I am going to pick on our Rockies. I'm going to take the Mets. This is the Saturday night game. Give me the Mets minus 1.5 versus the Rockies Saturday night. The Mets split with the Dodgers 2-2. They're going to Colorado tonight. Perhaps a little bit of a letdown game. I'm going to skip Friday and go to Saturday. Mets minus 1.5.
So Mets minus 1.5 against the Rockies coming up on Saturday. Ian's first selection. Rexrode, your first individual selection.
The White Sox win some of these or lose some of these one-run games, screw me over, but I believe in them. I believe in the future Nashville White Sox. So give me the Royals today minus 1.5 against the White Sox.
So going Royals minus 1.5 against the White Sox today. Give me game 3 between the Oilers and the Panthers back in Florida. The Florida Panthers win game 3, and if it goes the way I think it's going, Florida will be up 2-1 after 3 games played in this series. Joe Rexrode, your second individual selection.
So on Saturday, you'll be excited to find out the Royals and White Sox play again. Give me the Royals minus the 1.5 on Saturday against the White Sox.
So going Kansas City minus 1.5 against the White Sox on Saturday. Ian Safar, your second individual selection.
Okay, I'm going to stick with baseball as well. I will move to Sunday night baseball. Yankees versus the Red Sox. Rondon is on the mound for the Yankees Sunday night. Give me the Yankees minus 1.5 versus the Red Sox Sunday night baseball, and I will lock that one.
Locking down on the Yankees minus 1.5 against the Red Sox coming up on Sunday night baseball. The Oilers and the Panthers in game 4 coming up in Florida. Edmonton, lock, game 4. Edmonton will win in game 4. And they will even that series at 2 at that time, which is hilarious to say given the fact they're up 1-0 right now. Edmonton, lock, game 4. Rexrode, your final individual selection.
I like how we're just getting your whole roadmap for the series. I like that.
That's the last one I'm allowed to pick until next week.
So on Sunday, the Royals play at the White Sox. And I'm looking at that game. I'm going to take the Royals minus 1.5 and make that my lock on Sunday. Thank you. Screw you, White Sox.
I really enjoy how this strategy is not really working out for you to this point.
Hey, I'm tied for the lead, man.
You were clear by like 8 points when this all started.
I believe that the White Sox will come through for me. When it comes down to it, in the clutch, in the end, they're going to come through for me.
Give me the Philadelphia Phillies minus 1.5 tonight against the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Friday night game, Phillies minus 1.5 against the Pirates. Ian, your final individual selection.
Well, I was trying to do a little WNBA action, but I couldn't find a line. So I'm going to have to pivot. And I guess I'm just going to go with the Yankees Saturday night as well. No lock, but yeah, Yankees 1.5 versus the Red Sox.
Yankees minus 1.5 against the Red Sox on Saturday. Ian's selection on that front. So I went like 4 games deep into the Stanley Cup final there. You all stuck with baseball. Probably a good call on your part.
I like it, though.
I like the hockey. I just, you need to see, is there an injury? That's my biggest.
I could be totally screwed.
That's
like
my
if
biggest
McDavid
worry
gets hurt, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah. And, you just like to see a little how it's going, a little feel for it.
I get you.
I hope it's 2-2. I just hope it's like the exact opposite of the way Robby picked it. That'd be amazing.
Thanks. Appreciate it. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. One more segment coming up next today. We got some final thoughts to get to on the text line. We'll see if Rexrode has calmed down throughout the course of the program as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Friday morning. Joe, I've just come across a video of a first pitch thrown by Taylor Lewan.
My
at,
God.
I guess the St. Louis Cardinals game. Maybe in the conversation for some of the worst first pitches ever thrown.
What in the hell's wrong with him? Are you kidding me, Taylor Lewan?
I don't know. Compton
ripped one right
strike
down the absolutely shook him off. Came with the the split finger fastball for a strike, but Lewan, go find that on the internet. You will never look at Taylor Lewan the same. Just an absolute non-athlete. Disgusting.
Let the record show.
Not really, but I'm just mad about the NBA stuff.
Let the record show. I threw the first pitch out for the Nashville Sounds a few times. Right down the pipe, baby.
Of course.
Right down the pipe.
Because you're an elite athlete.
Well, that's what our program is. Joe Rexrode, Robby Stanley, Ian Safar. Elite athletes here on this program.
Could we beat no. I was gonna say, could we beat any of the other shows like in 3-on-3?
Probably not.
We'd have a tough time with DVD. Although Vingan, I'm gonna let Vingan take all the shots.
Yeah,
but probably Willie and D-Mace would be a tough.
We'd struggle. Yeah,
but I mean, we could at least we could at least make a game out of it, Whereas, well, of course, Stilly couldn't even. Stilly and his ego could.
You could combine
pass
Stilly
each other
with like Chase and Big Joe.
Can you imagine? Like, I'd love to play them in 3-on-3, or have Willie and D-Mace and like they would not score. There's no way, right? They would not score, right? Well, I mean, would Big Joe bully his way to like maybe one?
Big Joe might have some potential. Yeah, like he might be tough to handle in the post.
Yeah, you think so? I don't think so. He's big, but I don't think he's not a hoops guy.
I don't know. I have no familiarity with his background in basketball.
Chase and I don't either, but I'm just guessing. And Chase and Stilly would.
Chase can dribble, so that'd be the start of that.
What would Stilly do? I don't even want to know. His basketball takes make me pessimistic. Speaking of basketball takes,
just chuck him from deep. Yeah, pull.
Yeah.
I really love Ed's contributions. I love Ed's contributions on the Titans, and I want him to continue to keep weighing in and participating. Ed, you're banned from talking about basketball. Okay,
wow.
He's now saying what would be what defenders of today could be similar to Dennis Johnson. I was like, Dennis Johnson had a beer belly. What are we talking? Or even like Joe Dumars. I love Joe Dumars. He did a good job against Jordan. I mean, he still had games where Jordan put 40 on him, but he did a good job. Yeah, dude, there's a lot of guys in the NBA today who are as good as defenders as the 6'3", moderately athletic Joe Dumars. Yes. And now he's like coming with, Luka Doncic is a picture of. You're right. Luka Doncic has a beer belly, drinks too, and still drops 50 on people. I know. Isn't that crazy? You got to get me out of it. This should be a banned topic almost because I just can't deal with it.
I've enjoyed the heck out of it today. I really have.
I will say, watching the playoffs this year has gotten me a little bit, back into the NBA. I was pretty out for a while. Maybe it was because the Knicks made a run, but I've been watching some other games, not just the Knicks, here and there, a little bit of the West, Denver, OKC, a little bit of the of last night's game, some of the others. I think they've been playing pretty hard, most of the teams and most of the players.
Well, of course. It's a fantastic game. I mean, again, it's good to hear you say that. I mean, if you're not watching, you don't like basketball, that's fine. Then don't talk about basketball. That's all I have to say. I
don't know if it'll lead me to watch more like regular season basketball next year in particular, just like a random game, unless it's something important, but it definitely probably turned me on to more postseason basketball.
I love to hear it. I absolutely love to hear it. Trey from Antioch said I wouldn't be able to guard Stilly. I would pay $200 to be able to play a game of one-on-one against him.
Just to pack him.
And I guarantee you he would not score, and he would stop me a couple times when I would just miss easy shots. I would seriously pay. If I would pay him $200 to play me.
I just need you to stretch. I need to make sure you're limbered up here. We don't have time for you getting hurt anymore.
Hey, real quick on another topic, which we did talk about earlier. Matthew Nashville says, do you agree my Steelers finally signing Rodgers does not make them a contender? If we're lucky, it maybe gives them one more win than they would have had with Mason Rudolph. I'm going to say you might be a little strong in the last part there. I think it's a pretty big gap between.
There's an enormous gap between Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph. I'm here to tell you.
Yeah, but I agree.
Even at 41 years old, there's a large gap.
Like big gap. But I agree that they're not a contender. We've talked about it earlier. Like, they're like a 9-8, 10-7. They're more interesting. They could make the playoffs now, but I don't see it being much more than a quick Band-Aid going the Colts route.
Well, again, I said I'd probably pick them third in their division, and I'm looking at the odds, and they're third in their division. So, that has not changed with Rodgers. And look, it's not like the odds makers haven't known that Rodgers is coming for a while. So the odds have probably reflected this accordingly. But, you've got Baltimore at -130 to win the AFC North on the FanDuel Sportsbook, Cincinnati at +200, and Pittsburgh at +500. And then if you really want to get crazy, you can go Browns at +3,300. That's the gap. +500 to +3,300.
Just wait till Shedeur starts setting that whole division on fire. I just, I'm gonna hold my tongue until that starts happening.
I haven't even been paying attention. Like, is he taking meaningful snaps in their offseason stuff?
I have no idea. Are there?
They showed
snaps?
one highlight of him throwing a touchdown at OTAs. So there you go.
Okay,
get excited.
Hey, I tell you what. I mean, in all seriousness, that QB situation.
Well, Flacco was getting some of the Tannehill blowback about the mentor comments.
I
don't know if you heard any of that,
yeah.
but
yeah, I mean, Flacco basically said, he said it probably more in detail than Tannehill did. Like, it's not really my job to mentor these people. I'm here to play quarterback. I loved it.
And people are mad at him.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
it's just bring up the same conversation.
Yeah, some people, we had that talk about Tannehill, what he said about, Malik Willis and the mentoring. And so some people were like, Joe Flacco is old and he needs to share all his wisdom with all the young guys and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, I guess if I employed him, I'd want him to like if they asked a question, I'd want him to just be like, figure it out yourself, nerd. I'd rather he actually, be a pro, but I don't disagree. I mean, the guy was on the couch a couple of years ago, whatever, man. Old guy. He's like the pitcher in Major League. What was that dude's name? With had all the Vaseline and crap.
Yeah,
on his...
the guy who was trying to say, you're trying to tell me Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
Trying to tell me Christ can't hit a curveball? That was a terrible, terrible impersonation. But yeah, that's Joe Flacco with the Cleveland football team. He doesn't care.
We'll find out. I mean, December 7th, Titans Browns, baby. Who's going to be starting quarterback for Cleveland? Don't know.
I'll put my money on Shedeur.
Dylan Gabriel, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, he was drafted higher.
I did see a Browns reporter.
He's not as good of a player, but he was drafted higher.
I did see a Browns reporter, and I can't remember for the life of me who it was right now, that said, yeah, Dylan Gabriel does not look like an NFL quarterback in the minicamp. I was like, yeah, well, I'm very shocked that he went as high as he did there.
So that's the thing. Those guys, we all talk about how those guys looked all sad and they were like they were made to draft Shedeur stuff. Why did you draft Dylan Gabriel where you drafted him? That's the bigger issue here.
I don't know. It's a great question. It's a very fascinating quarterback room. Joseph, that's going to do it for us today. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I hope you enjoy some nice basketball on Sunday night.
Pump for it. Pump for it, baby.
I'm sure.
Ian, have fun.
That's right. Ian,
thank you, guys.
We will see you after vacation. We'll have Connor Newt in the house with us next week. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. Hope everybody has a great weekend. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.